Hello, hello. How are you? Let me get, um, hold on just a second. Ooh, I'm about to hang a kid by his toenails. How's that sound? Let me get this shared out real quick to everybody. Um, Copy. How are you today? Gonna run upstairs and grab some ice. Okay, it's gonna be just a few minutes before we start talking about this. Let everybody get in here. Don't trip on the stairs. Hey, hey. Let me get this link dropped all over the place. Discord. I'll go ahead and put this up there. Okay. Hey, my honey, how are you? Oh, my feet are a little cold. We're gonna. I just got links posted all over the place. I'm gonna give people a few minutes to get the notifications and hop over in here. Then we can start. How's the fishing today? Hey guys. Hey Begamon. Howdy Hondo. Y'all stick around. We're gonna do a little mystery discussion. I've been saying I was going to do crime time for 2 years now and just never had the extra time to sit down and do the research on cases. So here we are, crime time. Yep, cold but good. Good. We're going to look at a cold case that's really not too far from me, actually, that something I've um, dug into off and on over the past probably, I don't know, 10 years. Hey, Miss Robinson, welcome, welcome. Yeah, we have done. We did a few, probably about 3 years ago, and then I just got too busy to keep doing the research and stay on top of it. Can y'all hear me? Okay. I was watching a little bit of Matt earlier. I had to take a break this weekend. Like I had to let my brain decompress. I almost said decompose. I feel like my brain was actually decomposing from watching him so much. Lord. Um, so yeah, we needed a distraction. I had to spend some time with my kids. Saturdays are kind of rough days for me. Medication I take on Fridays leaves me pretty nauseated for a while. A little break, yeah. But I did see a while ago he's got several new mods this weekend. He's been a busy little man, hasn't he? Saw his girlfriend for a little bit on there last night. I didn't watch too much though. Okay, let's see who else here. We've gone 6 minutes. I'm waiting for my sister to get back in here, and then we can start up, I guess. Oh, let me hold on. Huh? Okay. I do have the two older kiddos here. His girlfriend. I meant, so if you hear anybody in the background, that's what it is. The older grandkids. I meant Dune, begging mine, his girlfriend Dune. Let me text Christian real quick. Hey, story. Yes, everyone, make sure you take care of your mental health. We've learned over the years you got to take a break from these grifters every once in a while. How are you, story? We're gonna we're gonna talk about a cold case out of Oklahoma. So this is the Jamison family. Um, they were from Eufaula, Oklahoma. That's the dad is Bobby, the mom is Sherilyn, and the daughter is Madison. And they all they disappeared. Hold on. So I've got some info to share with y'all about it. I'm going to tell you the whole story and stuff. Let's see if a couple more people pop in. I'm going to see if Christian gets my text. And my sister was here a while ago. She said she had to run upstairs real quick. So I'm waiting for her to get back. Hey, sis, if you want to let Cairo out when you're done, you can, okay? How are you doing, Story? That's good. Okay, good girl. Will you rinse your bowl out in the sink, please, and then put your spoon in the trash? Here, just set it right here. It's okay. Just lean it up against that. No, stay. That's fine. Either way, it doesn't matter. And then get his bowl and go stick it in the refrigerator, please. Thank you. Okay, sorry. Cara, you better behave. Gotta fill their bowls up in a minute. How's everybody doing this fine Sunday? It's not so fine here. It's wet and cold. Had a good dog as well named Massey. Yes, I'm doing okay. Dealing with my ribs healing. Golly, that sucks. I know when I had the COVID the first time, it was the original strain. And oh boy, I was so sore from all the coughing. I get you. Kyron, you need a bath. I need somebody to come bathe this dog for me. Okay, let me know when you're here. I've only got four. Okay, go sit down, please. Thank you. Okay. No, I'll get them some in just a little bit. They're fine. We'll feed them when I'm done. Thank you. Broken in the whole body hurts really. You probably pulled some muscles. That takes even longer. Original recipe was still spicy. Well, let me know when you're here. Waiting for my sister to get back. Yeah, that was their puppy's name was Massey, right? I don't think I pulled a picture. Oh, hold on. I saw one. with her and the puppy. Hang on. Let me find it. I just saw one. Give me a second, guys. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. I can't. What you know? I had one pulled up a while ago that had the puppy in it. I'm just waiting for Becky to get back. What all did I click on? No, it's not there. Well, okay. I don't guess we're going to have a whole lot more right now. Sometimes it takes like 10 or 20 minutes for YouTube notifications to all go out. I just hate for people to come in right in the middle of a discussion and have to start all over. You know what I mean? But they can, I guess they can start the live back over. Okay, so the picture you're looking at right now is Bobby Dale, his wife Sherilyn, and their 6-year-old daughter Madison. Um, they lived what appeared to be normal lives in Eufaula, Oklahoma until October 8th, 2009. That day, all three of them mysteriously disappeared from their home with no indication of where they could have possibly gone. After several days of searching, the police turned up the family's pickup truck, but it only raised more questions than it answered. I believe it was 8 days before they found the truck. The Jamison family truck was found in Latimer County, about an hour drive from their home. The family had recently been in the area looking to buy about 40 acres of land where they had planned to live inside of a cargo shipping container that they already owned and had on their current property in town. The items discovered inside the truck seemed to indicate the couple had not planned to be away from the truck for long. Inside, investigators found their IDs, their wallets, their phones, Sherilyn's purse, and the family dog, which was malnourished but still alive in the backseat of the truck. And this was a puppy, too, that had gone 8 days with it locked up in this truck. Their coats were also in there. Um, it didn't look like they planned on being too far from their truck. They also found about $32,000 in cash. Now, this is where there's a few different theories of this. Both Bobby Dale and Sherilyn were on disability at the time of their disappearance. And where they could have gotten that much cash or what they intended to do with it is still unknown. Investigators suspected that drugs may have been involved in the disappearance and that the large amount of cash was the result of the couple um, either buying or selling drugs. But another theory is that I have read that Sherilyn got some kind of a settlement. I don't know if it was off of disability or from an accident, but Sherilyn had recently gotten a settlement um, upwards to like I think it was $60,000 or $80,000. So the cash that they had in the truck wasn't even the whole amount that is being reported in some cases. And again, they went up this mountain allegedly to meet a person and talk to them about possibly purchasing their property. They had intentions of living off grid and building their own little homestead on this mountain. Um, so nobody could really explain why they would have brought their daughter along with them, whether they were just meeting with a random person in the middle of nowhere or if it was an actual drug deal gone bad. Um, it was impossible to tell from the condition of the truck if they had left voluntarily or had been forced out of their car by someone else, perhaps leaving their belongings behind while under duress. A search party was formed, and investigators combed through miles of woods and mountainous ravines um, in the surrounding areas looking for any trace of them. They turned up nothing. Now, you need to understand where they were was not a very well traveled area. They were on a mountain. Their truck was found on like a almost a logging road, like a road turned into a logging road. It was very hidden, tucked away. There are only a few people that actually live on this mountain, and some reports that I've read state that they're not welcoming people of strangers. So another theory is that allegedly, well, there was a man that lived on the mountain that ran into them, I guess, when they first got up there and saw them walking and said everything seemed to be fine, didn't notice anybody else around them. But that's his story. Again, this is not a very good area of the state. There's lots of illegal activities that go on in this area, um, which is probably why the people that live on that mountain don't welcome strangers very well. So, that's another theory, is that they just came across somebody that didn't want them up there and didn't like what they were doing or had to say and took care of stuff. Either way, the case went cold. Once they processed the truck and the belongings in the truck, the only thing that they really came out of with the truck is Sherilyn's phone had this image on it. And this is their daughter. And this was taken in the area of where the truck was found on that day, the same day. Um, I mean, this little 6-year-old girl doesn't look like she's happy to be saying cheese, honestly. She almost looks like she's being forced. There's been lots of wild theories about this picture and the reasoning behind it and all. So, again, the case went cold until November 16th of 2013. Now remember, they first disappeared in 2009. That day, just 3 miles from where the Jamison family truck was found 4 years earlier, hunters stumbled upon the partial skeleton remains of 2 adults and a child. And what I was getting into, hey Hunter, how are you, sweetie? What I was getting into is it was due to the time of year and the terrain, it was very difficult for search parties to get into a lot of those areas out there. But it was searched very well. So there's been question about, were those remains there the whole time, or did they show up? Either way, forensic testing proved they were the skeletons of the Jamison family, but due to the state of decomposition, the cause of death could not be determined. So the police went back into the case. Here is going to be our next image. First, they uncovered a strange security video taken outside the Jamison family home the night they left. In the video, the couple is seen going back and forth between house and truck, packing up their belongings. As if that weren't strange enough, prior to their disappearance, Bobby had gone to his pastor and claimed that his home was haunted, saying that he had 2 to 4 ghosts on the roof. Sherilyn has also purchased a satanic Bible, allegedly as a joke. However, Bobby confessed to his pastor that he had read it, leading some people to believe that witchcraft may have been a factor in their deaths. Sherilyn's mother, Connie, believed that the Jamisons had somehow gotten entangled with a cult and were murdered by violent members, but she never named a cult, and no evidence was ever been discovered to support this theory. Although I will say, okay, so this is the picture of their video camera, and you see in the background, top right corner of the picture, that's their shipping container um, that they were going to move. Well, they suspected drugs play a part in all this, but there was definitely some mental health issues going on. Sherilyn would occasionally go off on very delusional, paranoid rants. And this is one day she spray painted all of this on their container that was sitting in their front yard. So it's still very questionable about which direction this could have gone. The police did look into the theory that the Jamison family deaths had been a murder suicide. They uncovered an angry letter written from Sherilyn to Bobby that was 11 pages long. And remember, mental health issues take a big part of all this. This led them to speculate that Bobby had driven his whole family into the woods, murdered his wife, daughter, and then himself, but this theory couldn't be proven either. And close friends of the family have said he would never do anything like that. Another hypothesis considered was that Bobby's father, Bob Dean Jamison, had been involved. Bobby had filed a protective order against his dad, claiming that he had threatened to kill him and his family and that they were afraid for their lives. Bobby Dale's petition for a protective order paints a picture of a very dangerous man who thinks he is above the law and was involved in prostitutes, gangs, and meth. This was the husband's dad, the grandpa. However, Bob Jamison died a mere 2 months after the Jamison family went missing and had been in poor health for some time. His brother, Jack Jamison, claimed that he was either in a hospital or rest home at the time, and although he was a disturbed individual, he was not capable of being involved in any murders. The Jamison family case seemed to have many leads, but none of them led anywhere conclusive, and investigators remain unsure of what to make of their mysterious disappearance and death. Israel Beaucamp, who had been the Latimer County sheriff at the time, stated that a lot of investigators would love to have as many leads as we do. The problem is they point in so many different directions. Despite all the mysterious clues and theories, police haven't been able to untangle the mystery of the Jamison family deaths, and the case remains unsolved to this day. Now, I think we've gotten all of those. Here's just another picture of Sherilyn and Madison. So the short of it is, well, okay, so another article or report that I read had mentioned about this mentioning of demons on their roof, and it wasn't just Bobby, though; it was Sherilyn as well that was seeing these things. And Sherilyn had allegedly tried to do some kind of a seance or cleansing or something. I'm not sure about that, to try and get rid of them, and had asked friends or people to help her with it. Like it wasn't like they tried to hide they're crazy. Okay, everybody knew they were. But either way, 2009 was when, October of 2009 was when this family disappeared. And this is all that they have at this, to this time. It's still not a solved case. Like I said, the remains were found. And another thing that so this $32,000 was like in a briefcase underneath one of the seats in their truck. They still don't know where the rest of this possibly $80,000 went to. They didn't find it in their house. Um, so it's possible if they were taken that that money was found first and the other money was overlooked. But then again, the inside of their truck wasn't like ransacked and it was locked. I mean, it literally the way things were left in the truck, their jackets. It was a a crisp fall day, October in that part of Oklahoma. Um, you get some pretty chilly days, especially up on the mountains. And for a 6 year old to be out walking around in the woods out there without a jacket on, um, I wouldn't think you would do. But the way the truck was locked up with everything in there, it was just like they planned on walking up the road a little bit and coming right back and never came back. Oops, sorry. Get a text message. So that's pretty much the mystery of the Jamison family. I'm going to click on a video and pretty much most of the same thing that I just went through, but they have, a little bit more imagery than I've pulled up so far. So let's listen to this for a few minutes, and y'all pop in and let me know what you think about this situation, your opinions, um, what you think could have happened to the Jamison family. How does a whole family of three just vanish? And how is it that the remains were found just 3 miles from the pickup truck 4 years later when search parties went through that exact same area?
October 16th, 2009. A group of hunters stumble across a truck abandoned on a dirt road in Latimer County. After contacting the police, the truck is discovered to belong to the Jamison family, who live about an hour away in Eufaula, Oklahoma. Consisting of Bobby, 44, his wife Sherilyn, 40, and their 6-year-old daughter Madison, the entire Jamison family is nowhere to be found, having last been seen 8 days earlier. Stranger still, it seems clear that the family, who had been in the area to check out a 40-acre plot of land to purchase, had not intended to leave their truck for long. Not only was their extremely malnourished dog,
There's a
Maisie, still in the
puppy.
car, but investigators discovered their
Maybe.
wallets, their purses, their cell phones, and even $32,000 in cash inside the vehicle, a particularly odd detail, given the family were on welfare. There were no signs of a struggle inside or outside the truck. No blood, no broken glass. And the car had been left locked. Yet the Jamison family were nowhere to be found. As an exhaustive search effort began, involving hundreds of volunteers, tracker dogs, and even a drone, police delved into the life of the Jamisons to try and figure out what might have happened to this seemingly normal family. But the case only got stranger from there. With talk of ghosts, witchcraft, and
That's
attempted
right.
exorcisms in their house, threats from family members linked to drug cartels, run-ins with a white supremacist, extreme mental health issues, and even potential connections to a dangerous cult. Investigators to this day have been unable to find an answer to what can only be described as one of the weirdest mysteries in modern
I
American
forgot
true
about the
crime.
ghost killing
This is the
bullets.
story of the Jamison family vanishing.
I just tried to do a quick run through to refresh my mind. I know
Now,
there's going to
before we
be
begin our deep dive into this unusual story,
stuff
I
that I
just wanted to say
forgot.
if you enjoy this video, please like and subscribe.
Thank you, Dixon. Man, I just.
Since my editing and production skills have
I'm sorry, Christian. Thank you, Christian.
ripped, and remaking the video so it fits better with the quality of the
Dixon,
channel
I
as it
hear
is
you.
now. It also feels like a fitting way to celebrate reaching 20,000 subscribers, which if the
Okay,
channel has
well, I mean, I get that. We want to give them credit for the video. Christian's actually pretty close to where this took
initially
place.
seen cause for concern when the Jamisons first disappeared, as it wasn't unusual for Bobby and Sherilyn to withdraw from the outside world, and their decision to pull Madison out of school meant that the school made no inquiries when Madison failed to show up. Of course, that all changed when their truck was discovered on October 16th by the hunters. Latimer County Sheriff Israel Beauchamp initially suspected the truck might have been stolen, but it quickly became clear that something
I
occurred.
also
The belong
hold on. I also need to say there have been several accounts or reports of some possible deceptive practices going on with the law enforcement in that area. So I don't know exactly what all came of that, but this thing has been through multiple sheriffs, And I believe the one that was in office at the time of this happening, like some of the officers dropped the ball or some really suspicious stuff was going on with that.
Belongings found inside their locked truck suggested the family hadn't intended to be away for long. Investigators found their identification, wallets, cell phones, Sherilyn's purse, and even their dog, Maisie, who was still alive but severely malnourished, having seemingly been alone for a number of days. Authorities rescued Maisie from the truck and later placed her with Bobby's mother. The vehicle itself was discovered to be in working order and to have fuel, and there were no signs that it had been involved in an accident. One of the most baffling discoveries was $32,000 in cash hidden inside the truck. Some believed it could be linked to drugs, but it's possible the money was a deposit or payment related to the land they were looking to buy. Still, it was no secret that the family was struggling financially at the time, which begs the question, where did the money come from? And if the money was linked to a drug deal, there was no clear explanation for why the Jamisons would have brought their young daughter along, let alone why.
Yes. And there was definitely a lot of mental health issues with both of the adults. Um, One being the mom practicing in some witchcraft. I showed a picture of the storage container just a minute ago. I'll pull it back up again a little bit. But yeah, it was well known in the area that they were both mentally ill.
Why they would have seemingly left everything in the vehicle with no obvious signs of a conflict. But the area it was discovered in was
Okay.
known for drug activity, particularly crystal meth production. So could the Jamisons have encountered some sort of danger that forced them to flee in a hurry? Further scrutiny of the truck revealed an 11-page letter, penned by Sherilyn and addressed to Bobby. In the letter, she expressed deep dissatisfaction with their marriage, claiming Bobby showed little regard for their daughter, and listing various grievances against him. The letter clearly explained that Sherilyn wanted a divorce, labeling Bobby as a loner and a hermit. Bobby and Sherilyn both struggled with severe depression throughout their lives, and her mother later explained that such letters were typical. But police also learned that a handgun belonging to Sherilyn that was always kept in the truck was missing, leading to another disturbing theory. Could either Sherilyn or Bobby have walked their family into the woods, killed them, and then themselves? The truck's GPS data showed that the family had been further up a nearby hill before parking.
Okay, but if I'm not mistaken, there was no weapon found anywhere near them.
Where the vehicle was found. Investigators followed the coordinates and discovered footprints at the location. A photograph of Madison, taken on Bobby's phone, suggested it had been captured the day
Bobby.
before they vanished. We'll get back to this image shortly, as it's been the cause of a lot of speculation and theories. The day after the truck was found, a large-scale search operation was launched, involving around 100 personnel, including search dogs, horses, and a drone, combing the woods in the vicinity of the truck. At first, volunteers were not invited to participate in the search due to the remote nature of the area. However, they were eventually allowed to join the efforts. As is always the case, they hoped they would find the Jamison family safe and sound, perhaps having gotten lost in the woodland after going on a walk, even if the strange circumstances hinted that something more sinister had likely happened to them. Yet despite their extensive efforts scouring the surrounding terrain, no trace of the Jamisons could be found. During the search, the cadaver dog teams repeatedly detected something close to a nearby water tower, prompting the police to drain the structure, expecting to find evidence or perhaps even bodies within it. Once again, they discovered nothing. The police found frustrating clues, but none of them seemed to make any sense. There was no explanation that seemed to be able to explain why they had left their working truck locked and parked, filled with money and valuables, and even their dog, and vanished. So what on earth had happened to the Jamisons? On November 16, 2013, less than 3 miles from the spot the truck was found abandoned, a group of deer hunters stumbled upon a haunting sight in the Smokestack Hollow area of Panola Mountain, the partial skeletal remains of 2 adults and 1 child, all lying face down. The site was remote, and the bodies were in an advanced state of decomposition, consisting of 3 skulls, various bones and bone fragments, as well as some clothing scraps and the victim's shoes. It then took 8 painstaking months for forensic testing to confirm what many had feared. The remains belonged to Bobby, Sherilyn, and Madison Jamison. While this grim discovery did confirm the Jamison family was dead, it raised an immediate new question. Despite thorough searches, how had the bodies not been found when they were so close to the truck's location? October in the region brings flash floods and dangerous conditions, but the family's bodies were found side by side, suggesting they did not succumb to the elements alone. While speculation arose that perhaps they had been put there after the searches by someone, implying they had been murdered, Assistant Special Agent of the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation instead suggested that falling leaves may have covered and obscured them before, causing searchers to miss them. The extensive decomposition that had occurred over the last 4 years posed a significant obstacle in unraveling the truth about what had happened to the Jamisons. Dr. Joshua Lanter, the Oklahoma State Medical Examiner, reported that the exact cause and manner of death for the Jamison family could not be determined. While no clear signs of trauma were found, Lanter noted that it couldn't be completely ruled out, given the limited remains. He also couldn't rule out the possibility of disease. Additionally, the remains showed signs of posthumous damage from animals, In his final report, Lanter concluded that the deaths occurred under suspicious circumstances. Intriguingly, one of the skulls, belonging to Bobby, was initially thought to have a bullet hole in it. However, with the advanced state of decomposition and the present leaving it unclear if it was a result of natural factors rather than human intervention, while the potential gunshot hinted that a murder-suicide could have taken place, the absence of the gun near the bodies is difficult to explain. But friends and family, particularly Sherilyn's best friend Nikki Shenold, rejected this theory, arguing that despite the strain in their marriage, the couple genuinely loved one another and would never harm each other or their daughter. The discovery of the family's remains did bring a sense of closure, but it also reignited the need for answers to what had happened. The local sheriff's department and the FBI spent months chasing down leads, interrogating potential suspects, and sifting through a maze of confusing information. Sheriff Beauchamp claimed that they had an abundance of leads at their disposal, but because they all pointed in vastly different directions, it actually made it harder to investigate the case, because every line of inquiry seemed to contradict or differ from the last. One key clue investigators discovered was a piece of surveillance footage captured outside the Jamison family's home. The footage was taken the day they left and showed the couple making several trips between their house and vehicle as they packed. Their movements were described by Beauchamp as trance-like. And
That's what I was fixing to come in to add is the people that watched the surveillance video said that they were walking back and forth almost like they were like zombies, trance-like he just said. They weren't talking to each other. They were just going back and forth, back and forth.
and at times,
Yeah.
they would pause and simply stare into space without
Welcome,
explanation.
Casper.
Both Bobby and Sherilyn appeared to be emaciated at the time of their disappearance, leading some to speculate that they might have been using crystal meth, given its prevalence in the area, which police thought could explain their strange actions in the footage. In the months leading up to their disappearance, they were reportedly paranoid, often speaking of ghostly apparitions and hauntings in their home. However, police found no evidence of meth use when they searched the truck and their home. Nevertheless, the video proved useful as police were able to cross-reference it to check for items that were missing from the truck. Notably, they discovered that a brown briefcase, which the family was seen packing, was absent. Further searches of the surrounding woods turned up no sign of either the briefcase or the firearm that had still not been found. Another confusing piece of evidence was uncovered when police delved into the phone records of Bobby's cell phone discovered in the truck. To their surprise, records showed there was an outgoing call to voicemail on October 12th. Yet at that point, the phone had been locked inside the abandoned truck.
Okay, and that's where some speculations come into where the missing briefcase possibly had the rest of that $80,000 in it.
So who had made the call? It seems highly unlikely that any of the Jamisons were alive at that time when their voicemail was accessed. It's improbable that any local criminals would return to the vehicle to use the device and check voicemails while leaving all their valuables. However, could someone familiar with the family have wanted to see if their disappearance had raised any suspicions in voicemails? Or could there have been incriminating messages they wanted to delete? In the time leading up to their disappearance, the Jamisons' home life was tumultuous to say the least. Bobby dealt with chronic back pain stemming from a car accident in 2003, which negatively impacted his mood. Sherilyn, who had bipolar disorder, struggled with consistently taking her prescribed medication, leading to emotional outbursts and episodes of severe depression. This strain contributed to the difficulties in their marriage, and many believed it was a significant factor in their desire to relocate for a fresh start and the hope of renewed happiness. In July 2009, Sherilyn lost custody of her son Colton from a previous marriage to her ex-husband. 2 months later, in September, she was hospitalized following a failed suicide attempt. During the custody hearing, 12-year-old Colton expressed a desire to live with his father, describing his mother as very depressed and behaving strangely. Interestingly, Colton had visited Sherilyn just 2 weeks before her disappearance, but she hadn't mentioned the family's plans to move. Bobby and Sherilyn also harbored fears that their home was haunted and being invaded by spirits. They considered an exorcism, especially after Madison began talking to an imaginary friend who Sherilyn believed was an evil presence. Bobby once asked their pastor if he knew where to buy special bullets to shoot the spirits he thought were living on their roof. He also planned to try exorcising the spirits himself, using a copy of the Satanic Bible by Anton LaVey that he had acquired. Many friends and family members believed, like the Jamisons, that their home was haunted. Some even said they had their own unsettling experiences in the house. Sherilyn's best friend Nikki recalled that she felt an awful presence every time she visited, and it left her feeling down and depressed. Sherilyn was also known to hold seances and believe in witchcraft. A storage container on their property, which the Jamisons intended to move to the new land they would purchase and live temporarily in, had been sprayed in strange graffiti by Sherilyn. The container featured unusual writings about her black cats being poisoned, and the ominous statement, "Witches don't like it when their black cats are killed." Over the drawing from the strange and sometimes contradictory pieces of evidence that exist, the first obvious possibility for what may have happened is that the Jamison family became lost in the wilderness and succumbed to hypothermia and exposure. The area where the truck had been found was surrounded by vast stretches of wilderness, so it's entirely possible that the dense vegetation, combined with the rugged and unfamiliar landscape, could have disoriented them, causing them to get lost. If they became lost, the lack of proper navigation tools or adequate survival gear could have hindered their chances of
I don't
finding
need
their
to
way back.
say, if you are not an outdoorsman and don't spend much time in the woods or hiking or anything like that, if you are not hyper aware of your direction and surroundings and all, it is extremely easy to get turned around and disoriented in, the wooded, the thick vegetative areas of these mountains down here. So that is a very highly likely possibility that, especially if they had been using that day, or even had been on a big binge leading up to this time, so easy. I mean, even being stone cold, when I go out into a new area to hike and explore, I make sure that I mark my trails very well and pay attention to my surroundings and what direction I'm heading. Otherwise, I mean, it's very easy that this is what happened. Although not seeing the remains or the bodies during the search still kind of, even though it was rough terrain, they had a 6 year old. They couldn't have really climbed up or down into very difficult areas.
Back to safety. However, the discovery of their bodies, arranged in an unsettling manner, is hard to explain if they simply got lost, and seems more likely to imply an external force was involved in what happened to them. If anything, it resembles an execution-style scene. While the area saw heavy rainfall in the days following their disappearance, it wasn't severe enough to be life-threatening. According to the Farmer's Almanac, the lowest temperatures during that time were around 40 degrees. It's also worth noting that their bodies were found less than 3 miles from their truck, not a significant distance to travel. I also find it hard to believe they would have left their dog and their phones if they intended to travel away, even if it was just meant to be a short walk. Furthermore, friends and family revealed that Bobby's bad back made it difficult for him to just walk around the house.
And that's another.
So are we to really believe the family willingly walked into the woods for fun and not because of something more sinister?
So, with his back injuries and his extensive history of that, there have been comments made about him also being heavily dependent on opioids, overly dependent on opioids, if you know, like abusive. Um, but yeah, how could they get to an area that the searchers couldn't reach with a pretty much disabled dad and a 6 year old little girl? I know I'm not taking even my 8 year old out to walk a mile and a half to my deer stand because they can't make that trek. Can you imagine a 6 year old walking 3 miles from where they got out? That's just, it's really hard to believe.
So this leads us on to the next theory: murder-suicide. The fact that Sherilyn's .22 caliber pistol was missing, as well as the potential bullet hole discovered in Bobby's skull, could imply that either Bobby or Sherilyn had taken the lives of their partner and daughter before turning the gun on themselves. Yet, there was no gunshot evidence found on Sherilyn
Oh,
and Madison, though the bodies were badly decomposed, so this is difficult to confirm one way or the other. The 11-page letter described as
yep.
hate-filled from Sherilyn to Bobby, as well as her history of depression and mental illness, could support the idea that she murdered her husband and daughter before turning the gun on herself. Given she was known to have massive mood swings and to often not take her bipolar medication, could she have been in a particularly troubled mental state at the time? Her son, Colton, had after all described her as being in an extremely dark and moody place in the weeks prior to the family's disappearance. After losing custody of him, she had attempted to take her own life, which obviously implies she was in a very dark place. Equally, the obsession with supernatural beliefs and evil spirits could have played a role in a scenario like this, especially if Bobby was the culprit, given he had discussed shooting spirits with his pastor.
And there are reports of their paranoia and delusions increasing drastically, like the 2 weeks before their disappearance.
We know the couple believed their daughter was talking to an evil spirit, so could they have thought she had been possessed by it, and that they were saving her somehow by killing her? Yet if Bobby or Sherilyn had used the .22 caliber pistol to take their lives, where was the gun? The fact that it wasn't found with the bodies, or found at all for that matter, seems like a glaring flaw in this theory. The firearm has never been recovered. If Sherilyn or Bobby had used it to kill their family and then themselves, surely it should have been found with the bodies. For this scenario to be true, one would have to assume that a stranger stumbled upon the bodies, stole the gun, and then left without reporting the grisly scene.
Right.
Friends and family also explained that letters like the one found were common, and were used by Sherilyn as a way to jot down her thoughts and vent, like a diary, to help her. Furthermore, the arrangement of the bodies side by side and face down doesn't seem to fit with a murder-suicide, especially given the absence of a weapon at the scene.
Another account that I read was not only, well, pretty much what they just said, except not the letter parts, that Sherilyn was a journaler. She journaled everything, all her thoughts and all, and they found journals. And somebody, and he might actually get to this point here in just a minute, but there have been ideas that maybe Bobby found Sherilyn's journal. I believe I have read before that this journal was in the car, in the truck, underneath one of the front seats, along with the letter. And so that's where there has been speculation as to whether Bobby found Sherilyn's journal, where she had jotted down a whole bunch of her thoughts and during, some down times in their relationship or whatnot, and I'm pretty sure that one of the things that I'd read said that she had wrote in her journal that she, something about divorce or whatever, and that could have set him off by reading it. It's my belief that with all the extracurricular activities that it was a cult sacrifice. But that's okay. I want to address it all. We'll finish this. Well, we're probably not going to get through the whole thing, but really, like there was no, it's so frustrating because again, I read about the sheriff and the deputies at that time being super corrupt and cover-ups of a whole bunch of stuff. And Christian, you know what I'm talking about in that area with the law enforcement being corrupt and all. So there's no proof in the area. They never found any evidence of any cult activity anywhere near the truck. But again, only 3 miles from the truck, and the search teams didn't find the bodies while they were searching. Plus, you've got a man that is on disability, basically crippled, plus a 6-year-old walking 3 miles up that treacherous terrain. None of them really add up. The murder suicide, there's no gun around. Like he just said, it's very highly unlikely that somebody would have just come across the body, saw the gun, took the gun, and not reported the bodies. So yeah, yes, I've always heard about them too, but just that there's now, did somebody come and snatch them all three up, take them to another location, have their cult activities in a different location, and then once they were done, come back to somewhat near the truck and dump off the remains? I guess that would be more of a possibility. But snatching a whole family off the side of I mean, I don't know. I guess crazier things have happened up there too. They were escorted by the police. No, they were not escorted by the police. The police, though, in the investigations, the police in that area were corrupt. There have been reports of them being the people who were officers and the sitting sheriff at the time. Cartel, Christian, have you heard of any cartel activity up in that area? That would be the first I've heard of something like that. It's not close to a major interstate. It was a meetup, and the deed was done there. Yeah, they would have had to carry those bodies, though, up to where it's crazy. All right, let's listen to a little bit more of this.
So if we've ruled out murder, suicide, and accidental death as explanations,
Okay,
we have to consider foul play. There is actually quite a bit of evidence pointing in a few directions here. So let's take a look at some of the likeliest scenarios. First things first, let's discuss the theory of kidnapping, or the family being targeted by someone wanting to abduct Madison. This theory has gained traction because of the final picture of Madison, captured on Bobby's phone.
About
Friends and family, including Nikki and Connie, have speculated that Madison's parents did not take the picture due to the fact that she was looking away from the camera, had her arms crossed, and appears distressed and uncomfortable. They claim they have never seen an image of her like this taken by either of her parents, so it's somewhat unsettling that this was the final image captured of her. The picture was discovered to have been taken at the top of the hill where authorities estimated the family spent about 15 minutes before heading back to their truck. If an abductor had taken Madison in the hopes of a ransom, could this be why the Jamisons were found to have so much money in their car? But if that was the case, why were all three of them killed, and why was the money never taken? In my view, the photo isn't compelling evidence, as it's difficult to determine her feelings from it, even though the image is a little strange, and made more unsettling by the fact it was the last one taken before whatever dark events transpired. It could instead be argued that it's evidence that the family were fine at that point, and whatever happened to them occurred once they returned to their truck. While the fact that there were no clear signs of struggle inside or outside the truck doesn't immediately indicate a sinister encounter, the way that
and some of the old Reddit threads that I had read in the past about that picture of Madison, people were picking apart, and there were some that were saying they could see a shadow. Maybe it was the picture after that. I don't remember if it was this exact picture or the next picture, because I know there was a couple of pictures in that area where that rock was. But some people had said that they saw like a shadow of what looked to be a man that was not Bobby's stature, like bigger, like wider. As you could see a while ago, both Bobby and Sherilyn were pretty thin. No, the picture was on the dad's phone. But yeah, it was on the family's phone. I thought it was mom's phone, but it was on dad's phone. And so they had left the truck, gone for a walk, hike, whatever, took the picture of her on the rocks, come back, put all their stuff in the truck, apparently. So were they putting their stuff in the truck to get ready to leave? And then they were approached by somebody? But you wouldn't think that everything would be like locked up so nicely. And it's still, but they had left the truck and obviously came back if the phones were locked away, but the picture was geotagged just a short walk from the truck.
the truck was left abandoned and filled with their belongings, does perhaps imply that something unexpected happened and forced them to leave the truck in a rush. How many of us would leave behind our phones and wallets, and even our dog, willingly, even if we were just going for a short walk? To me, this strongly implies they had no choice but to leave their truck in a hurry. So what would prompt them to do so? There were rumors suggesting the Jamison parents were involved with drugs, so there has always been speculation that the family may have been involved in a drug deal gone wrong, which could explain the $32,000 found inside the truck. It's possible that the brown briefcase that was never located could have contained half the money for the deal, with the hidden cash in the truck having not been discovered once everything had gone wrong. Though, as mentioned earlier, if this was the case, would they really take their young daughter along with them to conduct such a deal? The CCTV footage has often been cited as evidence that Bobby and Sherilyn were using drugs themselves, yet there was nothing at all found in the truck or their house to back this theory up. I find it highly unlikely that police wouldn't find a single piece of drug paraphernalia in their home if they were drug users. Their shared paranoia, claims of demons on their roof, and reports of their daughter conversing with ghosts suggest that both parents may have been suffering from serious mental illness, drug addiction, or possibly both.
So just because paraphernalia wasn't found doesn't mean that they weren't using. Like they might not have been dealers. So there's no paraphernalia because they used it all. They used the drugs, but I mean, you would also still think tweakers aren't very worried about what they leave laying around. So you would think that you would find either spoons or needles or something in the house, at least in the house, which is even more crazy. If it was a Latimer County tweaker, there would have been no cash left at the scene. So, okay, a couple things. I can't remember if the keys were locked inside the truck also. I don't remember reading or hearing anything about if they found the truck keys anywhere. Christian, do you have any insight on that? And I know that they had said that the cash was hidden in the truck. It wasn't like they didn't find it on their first sweep of the truck kind of thing. I also remember reading something about, because not only, people say on your person, yeah, but like if they're that deep into drug use, you would think there would at least be something around the house. And again, if they were under the influence or something, do you think they would even think twice about, oh, I probably shouldn't take my daughter up on this mountain with me? No, they're not thinking like that. Um, but in the bed of the truck. Okay, thank you. I couldn't remember what it was with the keys. Um, Another thing was the money. People were speculating that the 32,000 or whatever that was found in the truck was drug money, but I had read somewhere that Sherilyn had gotten, or maybe it was Bobby. Shoot, I don't remember. I'm thinking it was Sherilyn though. One of them had gotten some kind of a settlement recently, and I don't remember if it was like a disability, because disability back pays or whatever. Um, or if it was like a settlement from Bobby's accident. I know that I read something about like an $80,000 settlement that they had money from, and that's where that $32,000 that they found came from. So it's possible, since the briefcase was gone, it's possible that whoever snagged them could only find the briefcase money. Injury lawsuit. Okay, that's what I was thinking. Um, so maybe whoever took them did get, the money that they got in that briefcase they thought was all the money and didn't think to dig through the truck or whatever. I don't know. It's kind of messy though. You would think that they would, if the keys were in the bed of the truck, that whoever took them would go back and take the truck and. Christian, I feel like there was something else that I read or watched about Sherilyn burning a vehicle on some land somewhere. Does that ring a bell to you? I wish I could find some of the old articles that I originally watched on this.
While Sherilyn had bipolar disorder, this does not automatically imply that she experienced psychosis or hallucinations. Meth, however, is known to induce such effects. That said, everyone who knew them has claimed that the Jamisons did not use drugs and were sober, although Sherilyn's best friend, Nikki, and mother, Connie, both pointed out that they were struggling to keep up with their mortgage. So is it possible that they took a one-time deal of some sort to get some needed money, with things going terribly?
No, Christian. There's a girl that we used to watch. Her name is Beth Ann, and just like last fall, just this past fall, she got like $24,000 in back pay deposited into her bank account all at once from disability. Because several years ago she was on disability and she got a job, and I guess she had some misunderstanding about how much she could earn while on disability, and because she went over that, they cut her disability off and made her pay everything back from that year, and so she wasn't getting checks for like 3 years, and she called to find out when her checks were supposed to go back into effect because she thought she had paid it all off, and it turns out they over did it or whatever, and so she got like one big deposit of like 24 grand. She did burn some vehicles. Okay.
Terribly wrong. Although the source of the money found in the truck remains unclear, I find it more likely that it was going to be used to pay for the land they were looking to acquire. If the goal of their assailants had been anything other than to harm them, I think it's unlikely they wouldn't have stolen their valuables. Interestingly, however, the area their truck was discovered is known to be a hotspot for drug activity, with a number of nearby meth labs. So rather than being involved in a drug deal gone wrong, could the family have accidentally seen something they weren't supposed to, or crossed paths with someone dangerous, leading to their deaths? Furthermore, Connie claimed that Bobby had recently reported someone in that exact area to the police for operating a meth lab, which could have made him a target if he was recognized as they traveled through the area. Regardless, the area, likely due to harboring several meth labs, is known to be hostile and unfriendly to strangers, with warning shots reportedly being fired at other individuals exploring the nearby mountains. While any scenario involving someone the family did not know confronting and harming them is impossible to rule out, there are perhaps some genuine suspects that are worth taking a look at. The face-down position that the bodies were discovered in can sometimes indicate remorse or shame on the part of the killer, which could hint at a familiarity with the victims. Furthermore, the autopsy revealed a dried flower found alongside the remains of 6-year-old Madison. While some might interpret this as a symbolic gesture from a parent during a murder-suicide, it could also suggest the involvement of someone else. Someone that likely knew her. So who in the Jamisons' life would have had a motive to harm them? Less than 6 months before the Jamisons vanished, Bobby filed a petition for a protective order, revealing that the family had been threatened with violence by one of their closest relatives. Bobby claimed his own father, Bob Dean Jamison, had twice threatened to kill him and his family, once in November 2008 and again in April 2009. Although Bobby didn't provide specifics on these threats, he did mention that Bob Dean had hit him with a vehicle in November 2008, and he described his father as a very dangerous man who believed he was above the law and had connections with prostitutes, gangs, and meth. The surveillance cameras outside their home had actually been installed by Bobby's mother after she separated from Bob Dean because of the threats he'd made, so it's clear that the family took them seriously. Connie further backed this up, claiming he had considerable financial resources, was said to have connections to the Mexican cartel, and could be extremely volatile. Despite these alarming claims, the protective order was dismissed by a judge in May 2009. It's perhaps relevant to mention that at the time of their disappearance, Bobby was also suing his father over unpaid wages from work he had done at his father's gas station. And Sheriff Beauchamp claimed Bobby and Sherilyn were scammers, who often tried to file lawsuits against people. Bob Dean was ruled out as a suspect by the police, due to the fact that he was able to provide a solid alibi, as he was in a nursing home during the time of their vanishing. Bob Dean was in his 60s at the time, and his brother described him as disturbed and incapable of planning or being involved in anything due to his health issues. It's also notable that Bob Dean had made his granddaughter Madison his heir, effectively bypassing his estranged son while still acknowledging his bloodline. Bob Dean passed away just 2 months after the family disappeared as a result of his declining health, so would he really have been physically capable of being involved in their death? However, Bobby's father wasn't the only person who appeared to hold a grudge against the family. Prior to the family going missing, the couple decided to take in a male boarder to assist with heavy tasks around the house due to Bobby's back issues. However, the boarder, Kenneth Bellows, soon began to make Sherilyn feel uneasy. She confided in Nikki that while Bobby was away, Kenneth had sat too close to her on the couch, leaning in and declaring that he was a white supremacist who was repulsed by her Native American heritage. After multiple clashes, Sherilyn retrieved a gun, aimed it at his head, and ordered him to leave the property. When he refused, she became more agitated and fired several shots at his feet, which finally persuaded him to leave. After the television show Disappeared aired a special on the Jamison family, Nikki received a mysterious phone call from an anonymous woman. The caller claimed to have been part of a white supremacist group called the United White Knights that kept a book listing individuals who had caused them trouble. A hit list of sorts. She mentioned that she sometimes searched the internet for names she remembered, which led her to missing persons cases like that of Sherilyn and Bobby Jamison, who she claimed were on this hit list. Most intriguingly, police found a prescription pill bottle with Kenneth's name on it among the multiple empty containers recovered from the truck. Given it was discovered months after the violent altercation between him and Sherilyn, wouldn't they have disposed of anything that reminded them of someone they seemingly feared and despised? Initially, officers considered Kenneth to be a prime suspect, but after questioning him, he provided an alibi that cleared him of involvement in the case. That said, it's conceivable that he had connections to the United White Knights, potentially putting the Jamisons' name and details on their hit list. It's worth noting, although the FBI cleared Kenneth, we've seen many instances where alibis unravel and be revealed to be false in similar situations. It is also interesting to note that Kenneth actually lived only 14 minutes away from the plot of land the Jamisons were looking to purchase. Is it possible that he had seen them during one of their visits to the area and realized how isolated and vulnerable they were, taking his chance to enact his revenge? This leads us to our final, and perhaps most chilling, yet least plausible theory. Something happened to them involving the occult. Sherilyn's mother, Connie, stated that she believed the family had fallen victim to a religious cult operating in southeastern Oklahoma, claiming they had been murdered by its members. However, she never identified the group, and investigators found no solid evidence to support this theory. Connie did, however, recount multiple instances of strange and erratic behavior from her daughter, including driving her to Oklahoma City before abruptly telling her to get out of the car. While this might sound far-fetched, there were genuine reports of cult activity in eastern Oklahoma in the 1990s. Although a U.S. Marshal indicated there hadn't been any activity for a while when the incident occurred. Near to where the truck was found, however, an abandoned, dilapidated vehicle was discovered which was covered in bullet holes and satanic messages. Could the Jamisons have perhaps encountered some sort of cult out in the isolated wilderness that played a role in their deaths? This is a particularly intriguing idea when paired with the rumors and suggestions that the Jamison family had ties to witchcraft and strong beliefs in the supernatural.
That was the truck that I was thinking of. But did you see the spray paint words on the side of the truck? I mean, it looked an awful lot like the spray painted words on their shipping container in their yard. So I'm wondering if they had been up to this area more than once, and some of that was from Sherilyn.
Could these strange occult beliefs have brought them into contact with such a group for one reason or another? During the investigation, the family's pastor, Gary Brandon, informed police that the Jamisons had been engaged in what they described as spiritual warfare. Both Bobby and Sherilyn expressed to him that they believed they had encountered spirits in their home, with Sherilyn claiming that the spirits of a long-deceased family resided with them. At one point, Bobby asked the pastor if he could acquire special bullets to shoot these spirits. He later mentioned consulting the Satanic Bible in an attempt to cleanse the property of evil forces, one of which they claimed had wings, and another which they claimed had befriended Madison. Witnesses have spoken of unexplained noises, apparitions, and an overwhelming feeling of being watched or followed at the Jamison house. For example, Nikki claims she once saw a gray mist swirling down the stairs, often found Bobby in a trance-like state where he seemed possessed, and found notes around the house written by Sherilyn saying things like, "Get out, Satan." According to Connie, her daughter had even been looking into whether their house was built on an Indian burial ground, as a way to explain their experiences. After their disappearance, investigators discovered a witch's Bible in the home, alongside the strange messages written on the side of the storage container stating, "Witches don't like their black cats killed." Clearly, both Sherilyn and Bobby genuinely held some strange occult beliefs. While it's easy to dismiss the supernatural claims as being the result of mental health issues or drug use, it's odd that in this instance many family and friends backed up what the Jamisons had been claiming about their house being haunted. While I wouldn't go as far as to suggest that these supposed ghosts played an actual role in their deaths, I do believe it's
Well, that was quite an image to use.
possible that the family's belief in them may have done. Could these beliefs have caused them to get in contact with a genuinely dangerous cult that proceeded to harm them? Or could these beliefs have led them to harm each other, particularly Madison, who they seemed to believe had a close relationship with one of the entities, in an attempt to save themselves? To this day, the questions surrounding the disappearance and death of the Jamison family remains unsolved, making it one of America's most perplexing modern murder mysteries. Some speculate that their tragedy was connected to witchcraft and the supernatural. Others believe they were involved in a botched drug deal, or were the target of white supremacists. Some theorize Bob Dean was involved in their murders, while others wonder if they accidentally discovered a meth lab or a twisted cult out in the wilderness. And some believe it was a simple case of murder-suicide or the family getting lost and succumbing to hypothermia. Authorities have stated that they have not been able to completely rule out any of these scenarios, despite years of investigation. Each theory has evidence that seems to both support and undermine it. While it would normally be safe to defer to Occam's razor and assume something simple, such as getting lost or murder-suicide, is the answer, there are too many contradictions for me to buy into either of those solutions. Most glaringly, why did they have $32,000 on them? Why did they leave all their valuables in the truck? Why was the gun, or any other weapon used, not found with the bodies? Why were the bodies arranged in the manner that they were? This leaves me to believe that foul play is at the heart of this case. Yet none of the current theories or solutions seem to truly explain what happened either. So what do you think happened to the Jamison family? Do you have any theories that can explain all the strange and contradictory evidence?
Okay. So we know that they had, I mean, some of this stuff is kind of redundant, but we know that they had $32,000 on them because they were going up there to purchase some property. They wanted to go off grid. Um, he didn't talk about the local that they ran into. Um, at some point, coming up or down, they ran into a local that lived on the mountain, an older fella, and he reported talking to them. So, could he have something to do with it? My biggest suspicion is that they were not welcome on that mountain. They came across something, right? Well, I don't know. I've read the dog was extremely dehydrated and emaciated, and probably another day would have been a day too long for the puppy. Um, but I really feel like the most likely answer is they stumbled upon something with someone that they shouldn't have. And that someone took care of them. But I feel like they must have grabbed them. Were they at that man's house? They took them somewhere and had them. Because obviously, again, where they found the bodies, Bobby and Madison could not have gotten there easily. I feel like whoever did it, for some reason, snatched them. We don't know how long they could have kept them. Obviously, the search teams in the next several weeks following didn't come across them on the side of that mountain, but it was in a place to where hunters walking through stumbled upon them. So it couldn't have been in a terrible area. Like, you could get to the area by foot, which means it should have been on the pass on the grid for SAR. So I feel like somebody grabbed them, and it was about the cash that they had in their hands, not They didn't know that the money was in the truck, and obviously they didn't want to leave any tracks of themselves, so they didn't touch the truck. Um, Took them wherever they held their little things or did whatever they did with them there, and then carried the bodies back up to the mountain, maybe several, maybe even months later, and disposed of them. And whoever that would be would have taken that um, remainder of the money that was missing and the missing gun. So there you have it, the Jamison family in Oklahoma, and there are still no answers as to what happened to him. Which I just, that's really what gets to me. I could imagine being having some of my family disappear and never getting answers. I just It bothers me. And honestly, over the past, I guess it was over 10 years ago when I found, because when I first found this, they had not um, found the remains yet. When I first learned of this family and situation, they had not found the remains yet. So it might have been around 2011 or 2012 when I first came across this all. The only time one of these mountains I visited are during deer season only. Yeah, true. So, all right, there you have it, guys. That concludes our first crime time of 2025. Anybody else have any other thoughts or ideas or whatnot that you think? I feel like the drugs on the mountain and the history of mental illness have a lot of play in this situation. Finding the truck and finding the bodies. Exactly. Yep. And so there's no telling how long the bodies were actually there. And here's the thing for, people who are not outdoorsmen, again, or not hunters or whatever. Um, that area, let's see. Oh, God. One of these dogs. Um, that area is obviously very harsh conditions. So even if the bodies were kept somewhere else and then put out there, going through even just a few months in the summer in that area, with our humidity down here, the animals in the woods, which they obviously said there was proof of animal activity, that it doesn't. Yeah, yeah, it doesn't last long. And bodies decompose really fast in the heat and humidity out here too. So between the exhaled decomposition from the environment, add the animal activity, I mean, it wouldn't take 3 months for there to be nothing left. Um, so, that really doesn't say a lot to determine how long they could have been there. But I'm still convinced they did not get there of their own accord. When you just take Bobby's physical condition and a 6-year old walking 3 miles in treacherous terrain. It's just, I mean, it's not impossible, but it's not likely. And I can only say that because I've carried my oldest grandson out into the deer woods with me before, where we had to walk a mile and a half of pretty decent terrain. I mean, like on trails for the most part, or graveled roads for the most part. And that was quite the experience in itself, going in and out, to the fact that I probably won't do that until he's got longer legs. Bears and wild hogs in that area. Yeah. I mean, there's so much predatory activity in all these areas around here. You've got bears, you've got hogs, you have coyotes, even bobcats are going to come on that. We do have mountain lions down here. No, I don't care what people say. There's mountain lions. I mean, there's just so many. And then you're going to add the environment on top of it. So, all right, guys, I'm going to end this live for now. I got to get some stuff ready for dinner tonight. I will possibly be back later to for us to watch Matt for a little bit. We'll see. I don't know for sure yet. It depends on how I feel. I do have quite a few things I need to do tonight. I'm doing a seafood boil with my kiddos tonight too. Two different mountain lions. I've seen a mountain lion, and you have Mexican guys. Okay. Oh my gosh, Mike. Hello, Mike. How are you? This lovely Sunday afternoon. If you're just now getting here, we're leaving. We might be back tonight. We'll see how my night goes. Thank you all for stopping in and listening. And for those of you that come back and rewatch, if you don't mind, would you give this video a thumbs up? Kind of help boost us up there so other people will see it maybe. You guys have a great afternoon. Remember, I love you and you are enough. All right, I'll talk to you in a little bit, Mike. Bye.